My name is Alexander Grant, and I'm 63 years old now. This story takes place 11 years ago, when I was 52 and learning one of the most important lessons of my life from the most unexpected teacher. A homeless child who had nothing but gave everything. I'd built my fortune in technology, founding a software company in my 20s that eventually went public and made me wealthier than I'd ever imagined possible. By my early 50s, I was a billionaire several times over, with all the trappings that came with it. The penthouse, the cars, the private schools for my daughter, the exclusive clubs and restaurants. My daughter Charlotte was 7 years old then. After my wife died giving birth to her, I'd raised Charlotte with the help of nannies and tutors and every advantage money could buy. She attended the most prestigious private school in the city, wore designer clothes, and had every toy and educational tool available. I wanted to give her everything. I'd never had growing up in a working-class neighborhood. Every opportunity to succeed and thrive. But somewhere in giving her everything, I'd inadvertently taught her that her worth came from what she had rather than who she was. Charlotte had become entitled, spoiled, dismissive of people she considered beneath her. She was rude to our staff, contemptuous of other children who weren't as privileged, and increasingly difficult to manage. Her teachers reported that she refused to work with students. She deemed not smart enough, and that she frequently made other children cry with her cutting remarks. I tried to correct her behavior, but I'd been so focused on building my business that I'd left her upbringing largely to others. And those others, well-meaning but deferential, staff, rarely challenged her or set meaningful boundaries. Charlotte was growing up to be brilliant and accomplished, but also cruel and empty, measuring everyone by their possessions and status. That autumn afternoon, I left work early to pick Charlotte up from school, something I rarely did. Usually our driver handled it, but I'd been trying to spend more time with her after her latest teacher's report about her behavior toward classmates. Charlotte's school was in an affluent neighborhood with manicured parks and expensive shops. I arrived a few minutes early and decided to walk to the school entrance rather than wait in the car. As I approached, I noticed Charlotte standing by the iron fence that surrounded the school grounds, but she wasn't alone. Beside her stood another girl, probably around the same age, maybe slightly older. It was hard to tell because she was so thin. The girl wore a dress that was several sizes too big and obviously secondhand, stained with dirt and torn in places. Her hair was tangled and unwashed, and her feet were in sneakers that were literally falling apart, held together with duct tape. Everything about her appearance said homeless or desperately poor. But what caught my attention wasn't her poverty. It was what she was doing. She was teaching Charlotte something, pointing to a notebook she held, explaining something with animated gestures. And Charlotte, my dismissive, contemptuous daughter, was listening with rapt attention, nodding seriously, asking questions. I moved closer, staying out of sight, curious about what was happening. "See, if you move the X to this side," the homeless girl was saying, "then you solve for it here. That's how you find the answer. My teacher showed me that last year before we had to leave." "That makes so much more sense than how Mrs. Peterson explains it," Charlotte said. "You're really good at math." "I like math. It's like puzzles. And puzzles always have answers if you just think about them the right way." The girl smiled, and despite her circumstances, it was a beautiful, genuine smile. "Want me to show you another one?" Charlotte nodded eagerly, and the two girls bent over the notebook together. The homeless child patiently teaching my privileged daughter concepts she'd been struggling with in her expensive private school. I was stunned. This was not the Charlotte I knew. This Charlotte was humble, eager to learn, respectful. She was treating this homeless girl not with the contempt she showed most people, but with genuine appreciation and friendliness. When they'd worked through a few more problems, Charlotte suddenly asked, "What's your name?" "I'm Charlotte." "I'm Mia," the girl said. "Mia Johnson." "Where do you go to school, Mia? You're really smart." Mia's face fell. "I don't go to school anymore. Not since June. We had to leave our apartment, and now we live. We move around a lot. My mom can't afford a place to stay, so we sleep in her car or sometimes at the shelter when there's room. I used to love school. I was in the gifted program at my old school." Charlotte looked stricken. "You can't go to school?" "But how do you learn things?" "I read books from the library when I can. and I practice math in my head. And I remember everything my teachers taught me before. She gestured to the notebook. I found this notebook in a trash can. Someone had only used a few pages, so I used the blank pages to work on problems and practice writing. That's not fair, Charlotte said with feeling. Everyone should get to go to school. I know. Mom says maybe when she gets a job and we get an apartment, I can go back to school. But that hasn't happened yet. Mia looked down at her worn shoes. I come here sometimes after your school lets out. I like to hear the teachers teaching through the windows, and sometimes I can see the math on the chalkboards. That's how I learned what I just showed you. I saw Mrs. Peterson teaching it through the window last week. And I figured out how to do it. My heart was breaking. This child was so hungry for education, so naturally gifted, that she stood outside school windows to catch glimpses of lessons, worked math problems in a notebook she'd retrieved from the trash, and now was teaching the daughter of a billionaire concepts that expensive private tutoring hadn't successfully conveyed. Do you want to come to my school? Charlotte asked suddenly. My daddy's really rich. Maybe he could pay for you to go here. Mia laughed, but there was no bitterness in it. That's really nice of you to offer, but schools like this cost a lot of money. Thousands and thousands of dollars. That's what my mom said when we walked past here once. She said even if we weren't homeless, we could never afford a place like this. Charlotte looked thoughtful. Well, my daddy can afford it. And you're way smarter than most of the kids here anyway. You should go to this school. I decided it was time to reveal myself. I walked up to the fence where the two girls stood. Charlotte saw me and her face lit up. Daddy, this is Mia. She's teaching me algebra and she's really, really smart. And she should go to our school. But she can't because she's homeless and doesn't have money. I knelt down so I was at eye level with both girls. Mia immediately stepped back, fear crossing her face. She'd clearly learned that adults in expensive suits weren't usually kind to homeless children. It's okay, I said gently. I'm Charlotte's father. I'm not going to hurt you or chase you away. Charlotte's right. You're clearly very intelligent. How old are you, Mia? 9, she said quietly. I'll be 10 in February. And you taught yourself algebra by watching through windows? She nodded, still wary. That's extraordinary. Do you like other subjects besides math? I love reading. And science. I used to love everything about school. Her voice cracked slightly. I miss it so much. I made a decision in that moment that would change multiple lives. Mia, where is your mother right now? She's at the library. She goes there to look for jobs online and to stay warm. I'm supposed to meet her there at 5. I checked my watch. It was 4:30. Would you allow me to drive you to the library? I'd like to meet your mother and talk to her about something. Mia looked torn between hope and learned caution. What do you want to talk to her about? About you going to school. And about how I might be able to help your family. People don't help people like us, Mia said matter-of-factly. They tell us to get jobs or go away. They don't want to see us. Well, I'm not most people. And Charlotte's right. You're too smart not to be in school. Will you let me talk to your mother? After a long moment, Mia nodded. We drove to the library. Charlotte and Mia chattering in the back seat about math and books and science. I watched in the rear view. Mirror as my daughter, who'd been so cruel to other children, treated Mia with genuine warmth and respect, asking her opinions, listening to her answers, sharing her own thoughts without condescension. At the library, we found Mia's mother, Sarah, in the computer section, filling out online job applications. She was probably in her mid-30s, but looked older, worn down by circumstances. When she saw Mia with 2 strangers, alarm flooded her face. Mia, who are these people? It's okay, Mom. This is Charlotte from the private school, and this is her dad. He wants to talk to you about something. Sarah looked at me with suspicion and exhaustion. If this is about Mia hanging around the school, I've told her not to bother the students. We'll leave. We won't come back. No, please, I said. That's not why I'm here. I saw Mia teaching my daughter mathematics that Charlotte's been struggling with despite expensive tutoring. Your daughter is exceptionally gifted. I'd like to help her continue her education. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. We don't need charity. We're doing fine. Mom, Mia said quietly. We're not doing fine. We slept in the car last night because the shelter was full. You haven't eaten today because you gave me your food. And I haven't been to school in 5 months. Sarah's composure crumbled. She sat down heavily, putting her face in her hands. I'm trying. I'm trying so hard, but it's never enough. I lost my job when the company downsized. Then we lost our apartment. I've applied for hundreds of jobs, but no one will hire me when I don't have a permanent address. And childcare costs more than minimum wage pays. I can't afford to work. What did you do before? I asked. I was an office manager. I'm good at organization, scheduling, managing multiple tasks. But all those jobs want someone with a fixed address and professional clothes and references from recent employment. I don't have any of that anymore. An idea was forming in my mind. What if you did have those things? What if I could help you get back on your feet? Not as charity, but as an investment in your family's future? Sarah looked up at me with a mixture of hope and disbelief. Why would you invest in us? You don't know us. I know your daughter is brilliant and deserves an education. I know you're working hard to provide for her despite impossible circumstances. And I know that my own daughter, who's been spoiled and entitled, just showed genuine kindness and respect to Mia, something she hasn't shown to anyone in months. That tells me there's something special about your family. Over the next hour, in a quiet corner of the library, Sarah and I talked. I learned about her journey from stable employment to homelessness, about the cascade of setbacks that had destroyed her financial stability, about her desperate efforts to maintain some normalcy for Mia despite their circumstances. I made her an offer I would provide temporary